judge of your work, and also show it to your friends and other people that are close to you that will give you a real honest opinion. So I hope that answers some of the questions. Is there anything else you can think of as you've spoken?
Yes, we have some questions on conference before connection was lost. And the first is, we spoke about it on Facebook, but for other people it's interesting, why do you use Canon?
Oh, why do I use Canon? It's one of those things where once you buy several lenses and a body, they came out with a 1DS. And that was the first real camera we could shoot digital in single capture mode and deliver 50 megabyte files. So we jumped into that, not saying that Canon actually recently has produced and have over the years, I think, better optics in their glass than Canon does. But again, we're talking about optics looked at under a microscope as opposed to on a printed page or a small image on a website. So what you're shooting with just really needs to fulfill your buyer's needs. You get to a billboard, I think you might be better off, but it was because we bought that first camera and loaded up on Canon lenses that we were now kind of financially tied into Canon. But I also believe a lot in Canon. They've stayed innovative. They've produced the equipment that I've needed to get the work done, and they've usually been first out the door with it. Whether they do it the best is another story. That's kind of personal. But the two top, I mean, unless you're going to a large sensor back, like a leaf back or something of that sort with Hasselblad, Canon and Nikon, I truly believe are the people to look at for shooting stock.
Yes, so the next question was how many pictures do you produce in weekly on stock?
Well, when we were shooting, before I started building the site, we were doing 2 to 3 shoots a week, and for macro, we were getting about 40 to 50 images a shoot. For micro, we were getting about 175, almost 200. And I'm only good, and I find models, unless you change them, are only good for 5-6 hours max. And everyone starts to get tired. And your production value, you're paying people top dollar, but you're not getting the top picture. You're better off doing more short days than 2 really long days in a week. Just because your talent is fresher, your eye is fresher, and your results show that. So the 3,500 images, for instance, we did for microstock when we did our test, took us a little over 3 months. So we were producing quite a bit, but I had a producer with me on site who was putting together, all I had to do was build the shot lists and tell my crew where we wanted things set up. And we had a large studio where we had 3 bays, and we would just set up different environments that were very simple, as you see in my micro work. It's all quite out of focus, but it still just reads a little bit of what the environment should be. And that was taught to me by one of the oldest, best photographers out there, is to keep the image simple. Because, when we look at it on a page, it's 1 in just 60, and they're the size of a postage stamp. So if the buyer isn't drawn to that image because it's too busy, they won't click on it and see it larger. So, keeping it simple has worked well for us.
Great. And how do you think for nowadays, is it important to make a team of photographers working on one account, only one, or it doesn't matter really?
No, I don't think everybody's model is different. And when my wife started stock, it was just her and myself. We didn't have, everything starts out just like anything that evolves. At first, the only reason we ever added people was because it increased our revenue, the amount of money we could make. I would never go out and hire someone just for the sake of making my job easier. It was the ability to allow me to shoot more that brought extra people on. So, it started out really with just my wife and myself and we still had 7, 8 years of commercial clients that we didn't want to just let go of overnight, transitioning into stock. So we do it on the weekends with our children and the neighbors' kids. And I have always been kind of a big kid at heart. I coached kids sports for many, many years. And so working with kids, I enjoy a lot. And so that's where we started. Very simple. We'd bring our gear home and we'd spend the weekend doing 1 or 2 shoots. And the only thing I regret now is that we didn't just drop everybody right then and jump in and start doing stock full speed, because that was 13 years ago, and you know, the more images back then, the more money. It took us 1 year to let our clients go. After seeing our returns after 6 months, we went, this is far funner. My wife was able to work from home. We were having children, so we were able to stay home and raise the kids. I was able to continue coaching sports. We were able to really set our time. So if I wanted to coach, then I could stay up that night at 10 o'clock until 2 and do my work. You know, I got to choose my hours so I could be with my children, which was probably the greatest gift that stock has brought our family. It has truly been a wonderful, it's a wonderful way to make a life if you can find a way into it. But like I said, let things evolve. You can just start out yourself and your friends, and you know which friends are those outgoing people, you know, and then we started to think about, where do you find outgoing people? Well, you know, one great place is gymnasiums where they work out all day. Because here you have young, healthy people that like to stare at their bodies all day in a mirror and flex their muscles. So they're more than happy to come in and do a photo shoot. So, you know, go into places like that and post, you know, a flyer for models for a low, low price. Because most of them, you want to find people that almost just want to do it for the experience itself and trade them back some photos. Say, you know, if you come work for me for free, I'll give you photos that you need for maybe your weightlifting competition, or just because you want some personal shots, or you'd like the experience of being a model. And you'd be surprised how many people. We do the same things with locations. We go, I don't think, it's been over a year before we stopped a year ago. So in the last 2 years, we have gone to some of the most elaborate locations, and we've never paid for them, and that's due to my producer, who's very good at doing trade outs with the locations. And we find a hospital that's just built a new wing, and we will go in and say, we'll give you all the pictures, we'll pay for the models, we'll come in at any ungodly time, 4 in the morning, whatever time you want us there, and we'll shoot pictures, and here's our shot list. But if you want to add some shots to it, just tell us and we'll get them for you. And it's like a win-win situation. They don't pay money for their own self-promotion pictures, and we get a wonderful location like a hospital for free. So that's worked very well at keeping our costs down.
Yes, so the last question is, do you shoot on public location like kid gardens or squares or something like that?
Where it's allowed and where it's also nondescript, meaning no one could look at that picture and tell it was, like there's a beautiful library here in Seattle that as soon as it opened, Volkswagen came here, paid them $5,000 a day to shoot an ad there in front of this, never even used the inside. And so when we go to them, they say, sure, you can come shoot. It's $5,000 a day. And we try once a year. Once a year we try, you know, but I'm not about to pay $5,000 for a location, you know. It's just way over the budget limits that we're allowed in a shoot day. So quite often, our local parks, some of our parks want a minimum payment of like $25, $50 for a day's shoot in the park. And you get that in advance through our Parks Department, and they give you a slip in case anyone from the Parks Department comes up and says, what are you doing? You just show them the slip, and they go, oh, okay. So the one thing is, because so many people these days love photography with the invention of digital, that you usually get quite an audience because so many people are interested in what you're doing. So I think a lot of times it adds to the energy and makes, we're ourselves always trying to shoot upbeat, happy photos because we think when you look at advertising, generally speaking, those are the images that sell. They don't have to be, crazy happy, but there needs to be a sense of confidence and openness to the viewer. So that's what we're looking for. And locations, like I said, if they have to be, there's certain places like we know the Eiffel Tower you can shoot in front of. But if you shoot in front of the Eiffel Tower at night, you're breaking copyright law because they copywrote the lighting setup. And not the actual tower, but the way they lit it. So you can't use it at night. Here in Seattle, we have the Space Needle that was left from one of the World's Fairs back in the 60s. And it's kind of our icon that stands in our city. You cannot shoot that on its own as the main subject, but if you shoot the skyline of the city, it can be a part of the shoot. Just like being in a library. You can't focus on a special book, but you can shoot the rack of books because you're not focused on the one book. The other place I get asked that a lot is grocery stores. Well, if I'm shooting the whole aisle of yogurt and milk, it's not a problem if it's a background with my models or even in focus because there's no competition of me bringing one product out to try to sell. They're just environments. So that's how it's worked in the macro world. I know micro is tighter. So it's always good to ask your editors first because they do have some tight rules to make sure that there's no infractions because they're dealing with so many photographers that they really do need to keep their rules tight so no one makes a mistake.
Yes.
So that's about all I have this morning, unless there's anything else I can offer.
No.
We have all the images we shot in Russia. I've been very neglectful to put them online. But if you would like, Kirill, I'll have those up this week since I now have this down week. I've finished all the images, and I'll put them up on a website and send them to you. And if you have a way to send them out to your people, then they can see what we shot that day in that small little room there with that wonderful model.
Yes, it will be very, very nice. All of our people want to see the result.
It's been my neglect and business and life that I am the only one to blame, and I'm sorry for that. But the problem will be fixed by the end of the week.
Okay.
So I'll send you the link.
Yes, it will be very nice. So thank you so much for your presentation. I have recorded. And sorry about lost connection. So you can see all the audience. We have about 50 or maybe 70 people. So
I hope we didn't lose anybody. And to those that we did, tune in and watch if Kirill's going to be taping this and putting it together. And if not, thank you so much just for being here. That's a real compliment to have 70 people up and listening to what I have to say. That always surprises me a little bit. But I really hope to make it back next year if there's an opportunity to Russia. I'd like to bring my family. I'd really love to learn your country a little bit. I really fell in love with the space and the people. Incredibly friendly and open. So next trip destination, and maybe do a little shooting too.
Yes, and if you need some help to learn Russia, I'm in touch every moment.
No, well, I should say to close this out, I should say, and this is not compliments just because you have been so kind to let me here. This is honest truth. I get messages from you on a regular basis. You are a brain picker. You want the answers. You are going to succeed so well, my friend. And if people can have the passion, and you show it, you have passion for photography. You live it, you love it. It's all you want to do. I still feel that way, but being a little older and doing it for a few more years, you kind of, you lose the excitement as much. To see someone like yourself, all I see is a very successful photographer on his way to making a very good living. So it's really inspiring to see the energy that you bring, Krill. It's good to see it